Okay, I'm settled on what I think is going to prick the property bubble. According to my research, again, it's not my knowledge, it's not my education, my expertise lies elsewhere. I've got a full-time day job. This is just my hobby. So I think what it's going to be, let's see if you can guess what it is from next few clips I'm going to share with you.
Welcome to The Business. I'm Elise Morgan. Coming up on the program, why borrowers should make the switch. Warnings interest-only loans could be costing them thousands extra. And how interest-only loans have been seen by investors as a ticket to tax breaks and hopefully capital gains. The RBA has been sitting on its hands over rates, but many borrowers have seen their repayments jump considerably. Banks have heeded the warnings of regulators, hiking rates on interest-only loans in an effort to cool an overheated market. Now those investors who can't afford to move to principal and interest loans are facing higher loan repayments and in many parts of the country, lower rent payments. Here's Carrington Clark.
Now, unless you are absolutely not supposed to get a loan, get a mortgage to buy a house, I can't see why anybody would want to get interest-only loan. Just to analyze what that means is that if you get interest-only loan, that means that you're going to be paying interest only, not the principal, for the rest of that loan or for the rest of your life, meaning that you are never actually going to own that home, which is the whole purpose of buying it, so you can own it one day. So why not just rent? So this is how insane some people are, that they just can't get themselves to rent when it's more economically viable to rent instead of buying. So they'll just buy, they'll pay interest forever. Interest, hence interest-only loans. I don't get it, but let's see the story to the end.
6 years ago, the Reserve Bank fired the starting gun on the property boom by cutting rates. Prices soared, fueled by investors on interest-only loans who stampeded into the market. Then regulators got worried and told banks to curb the growth.
The Reserve Bank and APRA certainly seem to be drawing a line in the sand here and saying it just can't grow like it has been.
And the banks are delivering by hiking interest rates, particularly for interest-only loans.
So the handbrakes for interest-only loans really started coming on about 6 months ago, and it's been increasing in the last couple of months.
It's Jonathan Lee's job to advise clients on which loan is right for them. He says a lot of people are surprised when they realise just how much interest-only loans have risen in recent times.
A lot of people, they don't really know that it's more cost effective to go principal and interest. They just think, oh, interest only because I'm just going to pay the interest portion, but they don't really know how much the interest only loans have increased.
I think they do. Why they are doing it, again, as I mentioned before, is because they can't afford to pay any of the principal off. So they completely stretched, they borrowed up to their eyeballs in debt, and they're just managing to pay the interest only. Again, they're never going to own the place, so what's the point? But anyway, it sounds like it's all going to end in disaster.
It's been a pretty sharp repricing. I mean, you've seen some categories of loans, depending on whether they're interest only and investor as well, have gone up 80 to 90 basis points.
Last year, the RBA cut official interest rates by 0.5%. That further fueled the property boom, but independent rate rises by the banks have largely wiped out those cuts. Investors have borne the brunt, so much so that Macquarie Bank questions why anyone would even want an interest-only loan. There was an economic rationale for investors to borrow as interest-only. However, in our view, the economic benefit has been eroded by significantly higher interest rates on interest-only loans. This chart shows the advantage of having a principal and interest versus an interest-only loan. If the loans had the same interest rate, if there was a 0.2% difference, and if, as there currently is, a 0.5% difference. So for anyone with a $500,000 loan, even taking into account maximum negative gearing benefits, switching to a traditional principal and interest loan would save them $12,000 over 10 years. The rate rises are also going to be a handbrake on the broader economy.
Definitely there will be some people who are stung by that repricing that has happened, and so you'd expect that in an environment where income growth is already pretty challenged, that's just going to be another hit which takes some money away.
Even a small increase in the
interest-only loan rate is going to have a profound impact, especially as both rents and wages hit record lows, and should see house price growth fall.
So we think house prices too, probably past their peak in growth terms, come down to flat. It may be worse than that in apartments, where you have an additional oversupply issue in some cities as well.
Those areas which have seen the most investor activity are going to feel the pain. This means Perth and Darwin, many regional areas, and of course among the huge apartment block construction complex that we've seen grow, in fact mushroom across Australia. Problems could arise if people start to fear the housing market is about to turn.
We haven't seen, to this point, that fear kind of leading to any mass liquidation, but it's certainly something that would be rising as a risk.
The regulators wanted interest-only loan growth to shrink, which puts the country in uncharted territory.
Over time, these principal and interest type loans have to rise as a share of the total loan book. How many people can actually withstand that adjustment? That's something we don't really know.
There's no sign yet that the banks have finished hiking rates.
Yeah, I had one client who went back to their bank to negotiate a cheaper rate on their interest-only loan, and only to have that rate rise up again, not only a week later. So it's always good to make sure that you're reviewing your home loan to make sure that you are on the best product.
Of course, and go and see somebody like you to get you a better deal and do a refinancing. There's a bit of a bias there, but fair enough. I think it's all going to end in tears, but hey, next story.
Welcome to The Business. I'm Carrington Clark. Coming up on the program, warnings Australia is sitting on a property powder keg. We ask a panel of experts what could light the fuse.
Okay, I got a little warning about this next story, is that Carrington from ABC Business said that he's got a panel of experts. Now, these one analyst and one economist, honestly, I think you probably could surely switch this part, but you got to see what they think about the property. I mean, this is just not a surprise. Have a guess what a mainstream expert may think about property and what it's going to continue to keep the property property footing, and prices pretty much on an even keel. Just think about what reason they may give you. A little hint, the reason they've been giving you for the last 25 years.
And the Aussie dollar surges to a 2-year high, while Westpac chief economist Bill Evans says it can't go any higher. There are new warnings on the overheated East Coast property market. Deloitte Access Economics says the economy is sitting on a housing powder keg, and rate rises from the RBA could provide the spark that sets it off. And despite a 5-year bull run, prices are still on the rise. Capital city values rose 1.8% in June. That's according to the latest numbers from CoreLogic. Hobart narrowly led the charge from Melbourne, both up nearly 3%. Sydney posting a rise of just over 2%. Darwin, Adelaide and Brisbane all went backwards. Auction clearance rates dipped in the two biggest cities and were still in the high 60% range at Sydney and over 70% for Melbourne. So, is the economy sitting on a property debt bomb? For their view, I caught up with property analyst Louis Christopher from SQM Research and the REA Group's Nerida Conisbee. Nerida Conisbee, Louis Christopher, thank you for joining us for this discussion. Nerida, I might start with you on this. We've had Deloitte come out and suggest that the Australian property market is a powder keg. That implies that all we need is one spark, right, to set this thing alight.
Look, I don't think so. I mean, we'd certainly have to
Could you expect that from her? I mean,
see a pretty...
I don't think so, she says. No, it's going to continue to go up. Let's see what she cites as the reason. I had to laugh, I'm sorry.
bad situation occurring. I was in the UK recently. You've got Brexit. I mean, even that has taken a while to flow through to the housing market. In Australia, I mean, we'd have to have pretty rapid rises in interest rates for there to be...
And we are. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but I suppose I can because I got the mouse and I can click pause.
A dramatic decline in house prices.
Lucas, would you agree with that? Haven't we seen in overseas examples that if sentiment changes, even if it's not related necessarily to a rise in unemployment or a rise in interest rates, that if the speculative aspect of that market changes its mind about what's going to happen, that we could see selling off happen quite rapidly.
Oh, it's true that, look, all it takes is one trigger and sentiment can change, and then
He's a little bit more realistic, I give that to him.
you have a correction in the marketplace. Though I think we need to take into account a number of factors which are driving the market right now. One of the main ones is actually population growth.
Oh, he's dropped the population growth bomb. Population growth is going to save us. Currently, if you don't know, I think the net immigration in Australia is 300,000 per year. Net obviously means that it factors in the people who leave the country and then the people that come in. So overall, we have a net 300,000 migration per year, and this is permanent residency kind of people that are more likely and are probably pretty much staying in the country. So yeah, population growth is going to save us. So I apologize for that little interruption from the panel of experts, as they call it. Next story.
First tonight, yesterday on The Business, we reported Deloitte's warning the economy is sitting on a property powder keg and interest rate rises could be the spark that sets it off. Today, the RBA shocked markets and sent the dollar soaring to a fresh 2-year high, saying rates need a hefty rise to get back to a neutral setting. Though rates remain at an historic low of 1.5%, the bank signalled rates would have to rise to around 3.5% to keep growth and inflation at reasonable levels, a whole 2% higher.
Alright, so the rates are going to have to rise by the whole 2% to 3.5% according to the Reserve Bank governor. I mean, that's a bit of a bomb, interest rate bomb, which I suppose it's clear now what I think is going to burst the property bubble.
In an upbeat assessment of the economy, the bank noted an uptick in jobs, infrastructure and government spending. While it was accentuating the positives, the RBA would not have been happy to see the dollar soar on the comments. It rose to over 79 US cents. The local market fell well.
Well, there you have it. Reserve Bank governor says that interest rates need to go up by about 2%. They're currently 1.5, so going up to 2%, up 2% would be 3.5%, which is a huge jump. So there you have it. Interest rate is going to be it. Let's see if my research is correct. Let's see if you know, the box, the TV is correct, because that's where a lot of my research does come from. Some of it is obviously from YouTube, some of the good channels that I follow. But that's pretty much it. For the next story, click on the top right hand corner for the next video.